didn't know what it would look like. And in a lot of ways, I still don't. Like, it wasn't this pre-planned all-in thing. You know what I mean? It was truly following what I loved and finding some way to make it work and really trusting myself to keep adjusting and bending and manipulating until it did work.
Hi, welcome to the Happy Progress Podcast. I'm Alex Harris, and today we're here with Eddie Pinero. How you doing, Eddie?
I'm great. Hey, thanks for having me, Alex.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Does progress equal happiness to you?
It does. To me, the idea of moving forward towards something exciting is kind of, I've kind of like built my life around that prospect, that idea, and believe it's kind of fundamental to what it is to be human. Viktor Frankl really kind of illustrates that well when he's talking about purpose and how, he believes that's the fundamental thing that really gives someone meaning, makes someone feel good, gets them up out of bed and just looking at life in a way that's productive and fulfilling. So I'm all in on that. Yeah.
Let me give you a little bit of background on Eddie. He was born in Japan on a military base, I believe, moved around a lot, Virginia Beach, Phoenix, LA, went to school in Boston, I believe focusing on political science. And then you got a job in the insurance industry. And then you really were not happy with that. So you left your 9 to 5 to really focus on your becoming a singer and a songwriter. That led you to being able to write keynote speeches and releasing your first video on YouTube in 2014 called Ode to Excellence. That was one of your most popular videos out there, but it was not your first YouTube channel. Now your YouTube channel has really exploded and you have over 230,000 subscribers with over 34 million views and probably just as many views on Spotify as well. That journey has really been incredible because I've really seen it prosper and grow. And that's really the definition of happy progress, how you've intentionally put yourself in a position of success. And I've heard you call it release content like a sledgehammer and then produce little tweaks along the way. But for me personally, this is a very special interview. I've been following Eddie for a very long time, and I'm not really sure how I came to get to know his music, but I've been always interested in motivational music in general, listening to E.T., Tony Robbins, whoever you want to put out there, but especially mixing the ability of rhythm, beats, and build-up within creativity. And that's something that I've always listened to music. Big 90s rap influence, Beastie Boys, Tribe Called Quest, Rage Against the Machine, Nirvana, and a lot of the same feelings that I got from that type of music, I get from Eddie's channel. He really connects with me, but particularly in different ways. I've been through, I wouldn't say a lot in my life, but emotionally I have. And in particular points in my life, I've returned back to Eddie's music to kind of break me through those limits. Particularly in 2016, I was going through a lot with my wife, and we were really just butting heads, really having a really difficult time. So I do what I do, focus my energy into something more productive, got into CrossFit because my brother was doing it, hated it, absolutely hated it, but I forced myself to do it every single day, that running, swimming and mountain biking. And I would turn to Eddie's music to really push me through all those limitations to get to that next step. Because I know when I did fitness, it would make me more successful in my business. And I would put on a particular track, A World Among Sheep, and I would, that's the exact title?
A Wolf Among Sheep, yep.
Sorry, A Wolf Among Sheep. And I would listen to this track when I was doing push-ups, and really the buildup of the music really was able to trick my brain into pushing through those limitations and really getting to the next step. And if you were to listen to this song, it really makes sense because afterwards I would get up and I would look into the mirror and then say, Alex, where are you? Where do you want to be? And you deserve a lot more than this. And every single time I would get to a new point in my career, I would make more money, I would push through my limitations. And that really inspired me to bring Eddie on and interview him. What is one unique thing that you are bringing to the world?
Well, first of all, I'm just grateful that I was able to connect in that way. Like, it's always such a cool thing to hear. You know, it's one thing to see numbers on YouTube, but it's really awesome to hear those stories. So I appreciate that. And the Rage Against the Machine throwback, man, that was like, I used to love Rage Against the Machine. But I think, like, if you summarize kind of what I've done, I think one of the most interesting things, and something that I think is helpful for entrepreneurs and creatives and anybody, is I didn't know what it would look like. And in a lot of ways, I still don't. Like, it wasn't this pre-planned all-in thing. You know what I mean? It was truly following what I loved and finding some way to make it work, and really trusting myself to keep adjusting and bending and manipulating until it did work. And so, you know, without kind of giving my whole life story, I left the corporate world because I wasn't happy with the corporate world. It just wasn't my jam. I know a lot of people that love it. I didn't. I just, from a creative standpoint, it just, So I wanted to, I did a lot of songwriting. I produced, artists around Boston and did stuff like that. But I also did some creative writing, and I picked up a camera and I learned how to edit in Pro Tools and Final Cut. And I just kind of kept putting things out there that felt right. And, you mentioned that Your World with Them is not my first channel. It wasn't. I have a channel with, hundreds of acoustic covers. I have channels with, original stuff, channels with, videos that I've made. And I think I found the intersection of what I love to do and where I bring the most value to the world. And that's when there were finally fireworks. And that's what that video, Ode to Excellence, was. It was like a promise to myself, hang in there. Because your gut is in that situation, right? It's different having that check in the financial world versus playing guitar or producing. Like, you don't get that money right away. And so it was sort of a promise to myself, stick it out. Like, for once in your life, stick it out and trust yourself. And that's what I did. That's what I've done. And that's what I'll continue to do.
Love it. Well, I can relate because my background's in drawing and painting. I've always been an artist. And a long time ago, I found Photoshop and Illustrator, and I'm able to create things on my computer and release it to the world, see results or not, whatever it is. I believe it's the same thing with music. We're here to create and put things into the world to really find people who essentially relate to us. It's a relieving feeling. Any artist out there really wants to obviously get attention and appreciation, but it's more how we feel secure about our own gift and being able to share it with others. Do you believe you're one creation away from a totally different life?
I do. I always believe that. And I think that's sort of it ties into the progress equals happiness question. Like, there's something really fun and exciting about the fact that, like, this new creation in the micro, right? It might change one person's life. The way one person thinks about their situation helps one person out. And in the macro, like, it could resonate with the masses. Who knows? Like, this could be the thing, but you're always one creation away. Or even from a different angle, you're one decision away. The decision to move, the decision to leave a bad relationship, the decision to start a relationship, the decision to just open a Facebook page, start a business account. Like, all those things, that's one decision that completely can reroute your life. And there's such power in that step, and the ability to see that and understand that.
Can you give us an example of one decision or major decision that you've thought about in your journey and the results that they got or didn't?
Sure. Yeah. I can think of a bunch. So I'll move away from the video stuff. We'll talk about it a lot, but like keynote speaking, like, that was one of those things that at first it didn't come easy to me, right? It's just, in fact, in the corporate world, that was like, I struggled with that. And I got an invite, like my YouTube channel grew faster than my speaking did, right? So I got an invite from a company that was like, hey, come speak. We're holding a quarterly event, and every ounce of me wanted to say no. Right? It's like, that's not what I like to do. But for some reason or another, I did convince myself to say yes. And it was torture leading up to it and preparing and over memorizing and being a little stiff and probably not great on stage. But it's like, you do that and you realize you don't die. And you, not only that, maybe you like it. Maybe there's something there, right? And it blossoms into this beautiful thing that's such a big part of what I do every day. One decision, like it could have been so easy to open Gmail and be like, sorry, I don't do that, you know?
Right.
So like little things like that that are just really can pivot or allow you to pivot.
Yeah, it's certainly easy to take the easy way out. I know that because I've always struggled with self-doubt. I have social anxiety, second guess myself, and makes things way more complicated than I need to be. And now I public speak and I force myself, and it's not easy, but I do it. And
that's all.
What you're intentional about, you can actually break through and make happen.
So you know exactly what I'm talking about here.
Oh yeah. I was nervous coming on and talking to you today.
Hey, we all go through it. Yeah, it's like.
But I think it's something that people can relate to, and that's what I want to get to next, is how you've connected with people to really create an emotional response. You're a great storyteller because people don't remember what you say, they remember how you feel. So tell us a little bit of your emphasis on visuals and the music that you choose to make it very emotional.
Yeah, well, I think that's a really good point. And it's like, a lot of times it's not even what you say, it's how it's said. You know, people remember things that they feel. And so that's why I place so much emphasis on the music and the cadence and, you know, the storytelling, right? And one, I'm not in a position to preach to anybody, but two, people don't respond to that, you know? And so I think one of the reasons, you know, that the channel's had some success is because I'm not yelling instructions or orders, or it's like, no, this is what I dealt with as an entrepreneur. Some of it was great, some of it wasn't. But ultimately, here's what I learned and here's how it transformed the way I look at things. And I mean, you know, as entrepreneurs, like, you know, the context is different, but a lot of what we go through is the same, right? The real high highs and the real low lows and the uncertainty and having to figure it out on your own and be resourceful and all these things that people can relate to. And, you know, that's really what it's been about for me. So it's like, one, making it relatable, two, taking the emotive piece, make it like really digging down, being vulnerable and expressing myself in an emotional way so that other people feel it too. Because if there's not that, it's like reading, you know, the instruction manual when you're putting together something from IKEA. Like, no one wants that. You gotta dance around a little bit. So.
Well, as creatives and problem solvers, I think we tend to think outside the box and think differently. And I think that's one of the core complacencies that some people have. So my next question maybe is about identity. Why do people stay average, and what do people reach out to you who are maybe in that 1% who really get it, who are able to break through versus the others who are kind of just living a complacent life?
Yeah, you know what? It's a really interesting question, and I've been thinking a lot about it. I actually wrote about it yesterday. So this is like fresh on my mind. The idea of, I think there's two different things. One, when people know that they're not happy, they know they're not where they don't want to be there, yet they haven't moved. They've sort of, I guess, fallen into complacency. And then the people that just see the world differently and are not turned on by that entrepreneurial spirit, right? In the video yesterday, I talked about my friend Chris, like one of my best friends in the world, right? I talk to him every day. And the guy, he has what would, funny enough, like he's living, well, he has a 9-to-5, okay? And he enjoys it. He loves the structure. He's good at it. He's, you know, really moved up through the organization, comes home at 5. He hangs out with his kids, his wife, he cooks, he does all these things, and he's the happiest human I know, and he's in heaven. And he looks at me and he's like, why do you travel? Why do you go around all, you know, why do you, you know, put yourself through these ups and downs and highs and lows? Like, just why, how do you enjoy that? And so I think there's a tendency for people that are entrepreneurs like us to look at that and be like, whoa, you're missing something. But they could just as easily look at us and be like, no, you guys have it wrong. So that's one thing where I think it's just perspective. But the other thing, the other side of that coin, when people are not where they want to be, but they're scared to move, that's fear. I mean, that's the biological tendency to want safety over progress, that has to be broken through. It's really teaching yourself that you can make progress without dying, right? That things don't collapse around you. One, identifying there's more, and two, seeing that you're worthy of that. I reference a lot my childhood. I had a great childhood, and a family that cares about me. I'm very lucky, but I also didn't realize till I was like 25 or 26 that I could think for myself. Like, I didn't have to go to college to get good grades, to get a good job, to get promoted, to someday be VP of an insurance company. Like that, I just had to sit back and be like, you don't have to do any of this, none of it. And that was a big thing for me. It was like empowering, and it was scary for the first time, but it was like a good kind of scary. And you learn that that's sort of a trigger to jump into, as opposed to sort of reel yourself back in. So that's how I look at that.
I can certainly relate. It reminds me of one of your favorite quotes, because I've done a lot of research on you. Not all who wonder are lost.
Yeah.
So while we may be unsure of where we're going, if we essentially have an end goal and we're laser focused on how to get there, we should be able to know that the line to growth or success is not straight. We really need to be consistent and intentional about what we do. But what about people who are working in insurance or in finance or corporate, and they're successful?
Yeah.
But they really want to put themselves out there. How do people create worthwhile goals with uncertain results?
Yeah. So when you say successful, you mean that they're making a lot of money, but they're not happy, or do you mean? Yeah,
they're making a lot of money. They have health insurance. They're paying their bills, and why should I remove this comfortable life to go out and try something new?
Yeah, that's challenging, right? That's hard, because it's not even like it's easier to make those changes when you're at rock bottom, when you have nothing to lose. Like when everything's going right, and you have the money coming in and you're sort of stable, it's hard to convince yourself that it's a worthy pursuit. And I think, that's where purpose matters. You have to ask yourself, take that time away and ask yourself, what do I want and how do I get there? There's a lot of people with money that live unhappy lives and die very unhappy with a lot of regret. And, it's almost a cliche that money doesn't buy happiness or bring happiness, but it's the truth. Data shows that. You need a certain amount to live, obviously, right? And without enough to survive, there's plenty of discomfort. But when you're at that point, it doesn't determine your happiness. So I think it's one, identifying what you want, which a lot of us don't even take the time to do, and then start taking small steps toward it. There are a lot of people I talk to that, they have jobs and they have families and they want to do something different, but it's like, look, I'm not going to risk it all. I have a family to support, and I get that. And the beautiful thing now in 2020 is the internet, and you don't have to, no one's going to clock you in at 9 and clock you out at 5. You can build in your spare time. You can, put every ounce of free time, free energy you have when you're not with your family at work into building something meaningful or making progress towards that pursuit. So, it's not a jump type thing. It's a, gradual progression type thing. And it's all possible. It's all doable. You just have to start.
Yeah. And get creative. I don't have kids, but both of my brothers do. So I spend a lot of time with my nieces and nephews, and they watch a lot of YouTube. And those YouTube videos have millions of subscribers and millions of views. And while I say they're very creative, they're not necessarily the most out of the box ideas that no one else couldn't create themselves. So if you wanted to turn your family or your other business into something creative, maybe there's a way to incorporate your family as well. But I think that's about opportunity, right? How you decide to understand the upside of life. What if, and stop saying, why not me? How do people really have the balls to go out there and put themselves out there to take that next step?
Yeah, well, the way I look at it, and it's not an easy thing to do, but it's something I constantly remind myself, is like literally everything is courage. From the things we believe, the things we say, the books we read, even the buildings we sit in or walk by, they weren't there. Someone had the courage to sort of will them into existence. And you simply don't get there until you believe that you can do the same. You know, one of my favorite speeches that I've written is called Dancing with No Music. And it's my favorite, or one of my favorites, because it's tied so tightly to the sort of entrepreneurial spirit that you have to hear the music before anyone else does, or there's just no shot, because no one's ever going to walk up and put their arm around you and say, hey, you know, that idea you have, I think it's going to work. I think you should do it. Like, people only believe what they see. And so for that to take place or manifest, you have to understand and drive towards something that's not there. And the second you realize that, the second that it doesn't matter who says you can't or you know, don't have what it takes, it's meaningless, right? It's not there yet. That's up to you and you alone to start driving towards something to bring it to fruition. And you know, I think that's a sentiment that will help people when they're looking to you know, move out into the world and make something more.
So tell me a little bit about what's going on with you. What do you have new coming out? I know it's been great to see you in the podcasting space. Honestly, getting to know who Eddie is and how he ticks a lot better. Tell us about what you have going on and what do you have coming up in the future? Yeah,
well, I appreciate that. I'm really, like, one of the things that this COVID situation has done is been an opportunity for me to quadruple down on the output I'm putting out on YouTube and podcasts and all that stuff. So I think the biggest thing right now is just to tune in on YouTube. I'm posting 5 days a week there, and just take a peek at what I'm putting out, what I'm saying, and hopefully the videos will add some value to your life. It's just youtube.com/yourworldwithin.
You obviously have been creating content for a while and have it either canned up or you're an excellent editor, able to do it all on the fly, because now you are releasing it every day or every other day, plus the podcast and all of that. So that is the example of happy progress. How you can, a great new quote that I've been using every day from Dane Maxwell. Did you build equity today? So every day that I go to work or I sit down on the computer or work on my podcast is how I can build equity today, because that is all going to compound for exponential growth in the long term. I know that building in my blog, building in my YouTube channel, building in my podcast, building in my SEO. I'm an analytics guy. You know, I'm out there. I certainly want results. I have a lot of high expectations, but I'm usually very good at doing it for other people versus doing it for themselves. So we're all figuring that all out right there. But I could certainly relate. Do you have any advice for people who are getting into the space, who want to push their YouTube channel? Is it about that consistency? Any other particular tactical advice that you want to share?
Yeah, well, something that I've learned very recently, you know, as I've been putting videos out for like 6 years now on this channel, which is crazy to say, but a mindset change that's helped me over the past couple months that I didn't really expect. So when you put something out daily, it makes it seem less like this big, grandiose project that you're delivering to the world. And, oh my God, how's it going to do? It's like, no, this is today's thing. And now I'm moving on to tomorrow's thing, which is almost like it allows you to focus on what matters. You're looking at the big picture. They're all little steps taking you somewhere bigger in the aggregate. You know, where when you're putting something out once a week, for me, it was a little bit different. It was like, you know, I hope this hits. I hope it resonates. And if it doesn't, as a creator, it's like, oh man, it's a little bit of a bummer. But you know, the more, in my experience, the better. And then you also have the quality versus quantity. I don't want to dive exactly into the experiment because I might butcher it. But at a high level, the idea is in film school, there were two different groups. Like, one group was tasked with creating the best picture they could, one picture, the single best. And then the other group was tasked with taking the most pictures they could. And just through reps, the second group had pictures way better than the first group where the students were tasked, which is one great picture, because through repetition, you become better and you master a craft. YouTube, whether it's podcasting, whether it's speech writing, whether you're vlogging, I mean, whatever it is, you got to look at it as a craft that you're mastering. And the beautiful thing about the internet is there's no middleman. It's you and what you upload in the world. But the other side to that is you have to be really good to stand out, which means you have to work and hone the craft. And and that comes through reps and reps. And you know how many speeches I've written? I've written thousands of speeches in the past 6 years. And you start to see the way you write change, and the way you think about things change, the way you articulate messages and tell stories, like all that stuff shifts as you continue to grow. And so hopefully I'm not rambling on, but that would be, you know, the point, to understand that, you know, you can be as good at this as you want to. Mm-hmm. It requires reps, it requires consistency, and some form of mastery of whatever it is you're doing and putting out there.
Yeah, experience definitely trumps perfection. That's for sure. What I do on the internet is essentially online experimentation. So we test different things to improve the performance. And a stat that I want to share is that most big companies do this. If they're not doing it, they're losing money. But Microsoft does this. They do online experimentation and personalization. And 30% of their experiments win. Their goal is 55 to 60% of their experiments, but 30% of their experiments win. So that means they're putting out 7 losers for every 10. Mm. And the more you're able to iterate, the more you're able to learn and get that feedback, you're able to improve upon it and make it better. So yes, putting in the reps, understanding what works and what doesn't, and really pivoting to ensure that compound growth is obviously going up and to the left. To close out, I do want to share some specific tracks that have dramatically inspired me. When I was doing CrossFit, or when I was running on the beach, I still run on the beach in Hollywood, Florida every day, or I try to every day. I still hate it. I hate exercising, but I force myself to do it because it makes me feel great at the end, and it also makes me more successful. The first one is Today Is Yours. First track on the one album, probably one of the first ones I found. Really just a game changer for the start of your day. And then the next one is Running in the Rain. It's weird how when you're listening to certain things, you can call it manifestation, you can call it law of attraction, whatever it is. But there has been at least a dozen times where I am running on Hollywood Beach, and it rains a lot in South Florida. And all of a sudden, it'll start raining. And the next track that comes on is Running in the Rain. Way too weird.
Higher powers at work there. Yeah, that's interesting, man.
And the last one, which is ultimately my favorite, is The Power of the Human Mind. Something that goes extremely deep, gets me super emotional, makes me really have reflection to understand my perspective going forward, and is really have game changers. And I'll share with these tracks with you on the website, happyprogress.com/Eddie, where I've created a curated podcast playlist on Spotify where you can get these tracks. So you don't have to search the entire internet specifically for the best tracks I think that you should listen to, along with some of his podcast episodes and interviews that he has shared. Any suggestions on things that you may want to share with the audience that you may we may not have talked about?
Well, I mean, if we're talking about one sort of comprehensive, I mean, the idea of just starting, you know, mm-hmm. I talked about a little bit at the beginning. It's, you know, you speak from your experience, and, you know, I'll continue to do that because it's been such a big part of my life. Like, being held up by the idea or the notion that if you don't know, you wait until you know. If you wait to move or begin until you have the answer or some semblance of what it's going to look like. And so much of life is having the courage to sort of move forward without knowing that, and letting those pieces materialize along the way, because they do. And you end up maybe not where you thought you would, but it tends to be somewhere valuable and somewhere meaningful. And, you know, I remind myself every day that, and I think everyone will benefit from reminding themselves to step out into that world and make it happen.
Yeah. Find your world within.
Yeah. Beautifully said.
Thanks for your time, Eddie.
Thanks, Alex. I appreciate it.
Thank you for making Happy Progress part of your day. How are you going to take advantage every day? Please let Alex know by visiting the website happyprogress.com. Together we will prove that progress equals happiness.